I lost a lot of friends because nobody wanted to be around me anymore.
Bobby Womack's name stands tall in the pantheon of soul music legends. His smooth yet gritty voice resonated with countless fans, transcending generations, making him a cultural icon. Songs like If You Think You're Lonely Now and Across 110th Street remain cornerstones of the genre, showcasing a vocal mastery that made him a master of conveying raw emotion. To those who know the impact of his music, Bobby Womack was much more than a singer. He was a storyteller, a conduit through which heartbreak, love, and every human emotion under the sun could be heard in a simple melody. But even with all that brilliance, the story of Bobby Womack is far more complicated than the public has ever known. Bobby Womack's legacy has long been cemented in the annals of soul music, a towering figure whose voice captured the heartbreak and euphoria of the human experience. His music was the soundtrack to countless lives, his chart-topping hits like If You Think You're Lonely Now and Across 110th Street forever etched in the hearts of his fans. As one of the most talented and influential figures in R&B, Womack's work with artists like Sam Cooke, Aretha Franklin, and Janis Joplin solidified his place in musical history. However, beyond the accolades and the fame lay a story far more complicated, a narrative of personal struggle, betrayal, addiction, and loss, elements of which were often hidden from the public eye. Womack's rise to fame began in the mid-1960s when he was still a young man, just a teenager with a guitar and a passion for music. Born into a working-class family in Cleveland, Ohio in 1944, Bobby was no stranger to hardship. His early years were marked by the same struggles that many black families in the Midwest endured: poverty, racial inequality, and the ever-present pressure of societal expectations. But from a young age, Bobby found solace in music, encouraged by his father, a gospel singer, and his mother, who was a strong and resilient figure in his life. Music was both an escape and a calling, and Bobby quickly became a force to be reckoned with. As a member of the Valentinos, a gospel group formed with his brothers, Bobby first began to taste the sweet promise of success. The group's sound was infused with the harmonies of gospel but shaped by the bold, emotional power of soul. Their work caught the attention of Sam Cooke, one of the most influential figures in the music industry at the time. Cooke took the young Womack under his wing, and Bobby quickly became one of the rising stars of soul music. He was still a teenager when Cooke invited him to join his tour, an opportunity that set the stage for Womack's solo career. Yet, as Womack began to build his career, the complexities of his personal life began to surface. One of the most significant and controversial chapters in Bobby's life occurred when he began a relationship with Sam Cooke's widow, Barbara Campbell, shortly after Cooke's tragic death. The affair, which many believe to be a betrayal of his mentor and friend, marked the beginning of a tumultuous period for Womack. The relationship was widely criticized, and it added another layer of guilt and shame to Bobby's already fragile psyche. The affair became a source of ongoing internal conflict for Bobby, a painful reminder of the demons he would struggle with throughout his life. The betrayal did not end with Cooke. Womack's own family, including his brothers, became embroiled in the drama as secrets, infidelities, and resentment began to surface. His personal life, once shared with his brothers in harmony, began to unravel. His relationships with his family members became strained, and the success of the Valentinos began to dissolve under the weight of personal conflict. Bobby found himself torn between his loyalty to his family and the allure of fame, a battle that would define much of his personal life in the years that followed. As Bobby's career soared, so too did his struggles with addiction, infidelity, and his complicated relationship with fame. He became a notorious figure in the music industry, both for his musical prowess and his tumultuous personal life. While he created some of his greatest work during this period infused with deep emotion, soul-searching, and vulnerability, he also faced incredible hardships. His addictions to drugs and alcohol would plague him for much of his life, and his relationships with his wives and children became increasingly fractured. His life seemed to be marked by a constant push and pull between the euphoria of musical success and the darkness of personal demons. Womack's struggles with addiction were compounded by a series of failed marriages, which included a painful public divorce from his second wife, Regina, and the dissolution of his relationship with his children. His personal pain seeped into his music, and much of his later work reflects the raw emotion he experienced as he navigated the ups and downs of his tumultuous life. Songs like If You Think You're Lonely Now became emblematic of his personal heartbreak, resonating with listeners who saw in Bobby's voice their own pain, their own sorrow. His vulnerable music was the sound of a man who had endured the worst and poured his heart into his art. For years, Bobby Womack's personal life remained largely hidden from public view, while his music remained a source of inspiration and comfort for millions. The true depths of his pain were not fully known to his fans. However, in recent years, Bobby's daughter has courageously opened up about the hidden sides of his life, offering a perspective that had long been kept in the shadows. Her revelations paint a picture of a man who, despite his musical genius, was deeply troubled and haunted by his past. His struggles with addiction, infidelity, and guilt were constant companions, and the toll these took on his family was immeasurable. His daughter's words have shed light on the complexity of Bobby Womack's life, revealing the human side of a man who was often viewed through the lens of his musical fame. While he was a giant in the music world, the personal battles he fought offstage were just as significant as his career achievements. His legacy, now more complete than ever, is no longer just about the hits he recorded or the collaborations he forged. It's about a man who lived with his demons, a man who fought to overcome them but never fully succeeded. It's a story of a father who, despite his shortcomings, still left an indelible mark on the hearts of his children. In the end, Bobby Womack's story is one of contradictions. His career was marked by professional triumphs, but his personal life was often overshadowed by pain and turmoil. The pain that drove his music made it some of the most emotionally moving in soul music history. His voice, tinged with the sorrow of lived experience, connected with audiences on a deep level, offering comfort and catharsis for those who, like him, knew what it was like to struggle. Bobby Womack may have been a man of contradictions, but his music remains a testament to the enduring power of art to transcend personal pain and connect us all in our shared humanity. Through the lens of his daughter's brave revelations, we now see a fuller picture of the man behind the music, a man whose greatness was born not just of talent but of the complex and often painful experiences that shaped him. Before he became an international sensation, Bobby Womack was just a young boy growing up in the difficult streets of Cleveland, Ohio. His family, like many others in their neighborhood, faced the harsh realities of poverty. With 5 children to raise, Bobby's parents worked tirelessly to provide for the family, but there was never enough. They didn't have the luxury of abundant food or comfort, and there were times when they had to scavenge for leftovers just to make ends meet. The Womack siblings, crowded into their small home, learned to get by on very little, but amidst these struggles, they had one powerful thing: the gift of music. Bobby's father, a gospel singer at the local church, was a strict but deeply loving man. One day, he brought home a guitar, an unusual luxury for a family struggling to survive. It was precious, so he told his sons not to touch it. However, the lure of the guitar was too strong for Bobby and his brothers to resist. After their father left, they would sneak the guitar out and experiment with its sounds, eager to learn more. One fateful day, Bobby, trying to teach himself how to play, broke one of the guitar strings. Panic set in. How would he fix it? His father's reaction was anything but what Bobby had expected. Instead of anger, he simply told Bobby, "Play something." So Bobby, nervous but determined, picked up the guitar and began to play whatever came to his mind. Classical tunes, rock riffs, and soulful melodies all poured out of him in that moment. His father, who had expected a broken guitar to be the source of conflict, saw something different. He recognized talent. "You've got something," he told Bobby, marking the moment that would alter the course of his life forever. From there, Bobby's musical journey began in earnest. His father, seeing the potential in all his sons, didn't stop with just the guitar. He bought instruments for each of them, and together the Womack brothers formed a family band. Their mother, an accomplished organ player, joined in, and the family would perform at local churches, bringing their gospel roots into their music. Despite their struggles, they found joy in their music, creating something beautiful in a world that often felt unforgiving. The family's big break came when they opened for one of the greatest gospel groups of all time, the Soul Stirrers, led by none other than the legendary Sam Cooke. Cooke, known for his suave voice and charisma, recognized the Womack's talent right away. He took them under his wing, offering them a chance to tour with him and even signing them to his label. Sam Cooke's influence was pivotal, but it also came with a hard choice: stay in the gospel world or cross over into secular music. For the Womacks, it was a difficult decision, but Bobby, ever the risk taker, was eager to explore what the world of secular music could offer. Thus, the Valentinos were born, and Bobby Womack's professional career began to take shape. Under Cooke's guidance, their music began to evolve, blending their gospel roots with elements of soul and rock. Bobby's voice was at the center of it all, a voice full of heartache and passion, able to express emotion in a way few could match. The Valentinos scored a hit with "Lookin' for a Lover" song that would define their career, and Bobby's talents were soon recognized by the broader music world. However, as Bobby's career took off, so did the complications in his personal life. The pressure of fame, combined with the challenges of navigating the complexities of family dynamics and relationships, led to cracks in the foundation of Bobby's life. One of the most troubling chapters came when Bobby became romantically involved with his mentor, Sam Cooke's wife. This affair, which remained a secret for years, would eventually surface, creating a rift between Bobby and the man who had helped launch his career. Sam Cooke's untimely death only deepened the emotional weight Bobby carried, leaving him to grapple with a mixture of guilt, loss, and betrayal. But it wasn't just infidelity and emotional turmoil that haunted Bobby's personal life. The family, despite their success, was fraught with issues. Tensions between Bobby and his brothers escalated, further complicating their music and their relationships. The Womacks, once a tight-knit family unit, began to unravel, torn apart by betrayal, jealousy, and the fallout from Bobby's personal decisions. It was a tragedy that was difficult to escape from, and it left deep scars on Bobby. Then, decades after Bobby's rise to fame, his daughter came forward with revelations that would shock the world. She shared details about her father's life that had never been made public before, intimate secrets that painted a very different picture of Bobby Womack. The man who had been celebrated as a soul legend was also a man haunted by personal demons, struggling with the pressures of fame, family, and the complicated relationships he had left in his wake. These revelations peeled back the layers of his public persona, revealing the painful struggles that had been hidden for so long. Bobby Womack's legacy has always been one of musical brilliance, but the revelations from his daughter give the world a more complete view of the man behind the music. He was not just a star, but a man who faced personal tragedies, carried the weight of his mistakes, and struggled to find redemption. The darkness he experienced in his personal life seeped into his music, creating the soul-shattering songs that have resonated with so many. Despite the ups and downs, Bobby's influence on the music world is undeniable. He worked with icons like Sly Stone, Aretha Franklin, and Wilson Pickett, and his songwriting and guitar skills became legendary. But even as he continued to produce timeless music, his personal life remained a complicated, often painful journey. Addiction, heartbreak, and betrayal became recurring themes in his life, and while his music spoke to the deepest parts of the human experience, his personal pain was never fully healed. Bobby Womack's life is a complex tapestry woven with threads of brilliance, pain, and redemption. From his humble beginnings in the tough neighborhoods of Cleveland, Ohio, to becoming one of the most revered figures in soul music, his journey was one of extreme contrasts. The highs of fame and musical success were always shadowed by deep personal struggles, making Bobby's life both tragic and inspiring. Now, with the revelations brought to light by his daughter, the full depth of his personal and professional journey is coming into focus, reshaping the narrative of the man behind the music. Bobby was born into a working-class family in 1944. His mother, a strong woman who worked tirelessly to provide for her children, and his father, a gospel singer, were the foundations of his early life. Yet the family struggled financially, living in the harsh realities of inner-city Cleveland. For young Bobby, life was a daily battle for survival, with moments of hunger and deprivation that many of his peers never experienced. But even amid this hardship, music became an escape, a passion, and a lifeline. His father's guitar, though a source of strict discipline, ignited a spark in Bobby that would burn throughout his life. The Womack family's bond was solidified through music. Bobby's father, seeing the potential in his sons, not only gave them instruments but nurtured their talent, leading them to form a family gospel band. However, the Womacks were determined to make something beautiful from their small performances. It was this early exposure to music that paved the way for Bobby's later success. When the family opened for the legendary Sam Cooke's Soul Stirrers, the path to professional music seemed almost inevitable. Cooke recognized the Womacks' talent and took them under his wing, offering them opportunities that most artists could only dream of. But Bobby's rise to fame wasn't without its complications. The pivotal moment came when Bobby and his brothers decided to cross from gospel into secular music, forming the group the Valentinos. This was a decision that would set them on a new trajectory but also bring new challenges. The move was fraught with tension as Bobby and his brothers struggled with the expectations placed on them. Sam Cooke, a mentor who had guided them thus far, presented them with a choice: continue in gospel music or take the plunge into the secular world. Bobby, ever the risk-taker, saw a chance to reach a wider audience. The Valentinos embraced a blend of soul, gospel, and rock, creating a sound that was fresh, powerful, and uniquely their own. The world soon came to know Bobby Womack not just as a member of the Valentinos but as a solo artist whose voice could evoke the deepest of emotions. His hits like If You Think You're Lonely Now and Across 110th Street are timeless classics, showcasing his incredible vocal range and emotional depth. His ability to channel pain and longing into his music made him a revered figure in soul music, and his songs became anthems for generations. But behind the music, Bobby was grappling with his own demons: addiction, failed relationships, and the weight of his own mistakes. The story of Bobby Womack is not just one of musical triumph but of personal turmoil, much of which was hidden from the public eye. As his career soared, his personal life began to unravel. One of the darkest chapters in Bobby's life involved his affair with Sam Cooke's wife, Barbara Campbell. This betrayal, which had been kept in the shadows for years, shattered Bobby's relationship with Cooke, a man he had once regarded as a mentor and big brother. When Sam Cooke tragically died in 1964, the guilt and emotional burden that Bobby carried with him became even heavier. The affair, which had once seemed like a fleeting indulgence, became a haunting memory that Bobby could never shake. Yet the betrayals didn't end with Sam Cooke. Bobby's personal life was fraught with infidelity and fractured relationships. His relationship with his brothers, once so close, began to deteriorate as personal issues bled into their professional life. The family dynamic that had helped launch Bobby's career was now under strain as secrets and resentments began to surface. The Womack family, despite their musical success, struggled with the same issues that plagued many families: the burden of fame, broken trust, and the difficulty of reconciling personal lives with the demands of the music business. Bobby's daughter, through her courageous revelations, has given the world a glimpse into the man behind the music. She shared intimate details of his life that had never been known before, details that shed light on the deep heartache and struggles that Bobby faced. These revelations changed the public's perception of Bobby Womack, not just as a soul legend, but as a man who endured immense pain. Despite the numerous setbacks and betrayals in his life, he continued to rise above them, always returning to his music as a means of healing. His personal wounds, while never fully healed, became part of his artistic identity. Through his music, Bobby Womack was able to make sense of his pain, sharing it with the world in a way that touched the hearts of millions. The connection he created with his audience was undeniable. Their understanding of his struggles through the songs he wrote and performed brought them closer to him as both a man and an artist. But the true power of Bobby Womack's legacy lies in the way his music transcended his personal troubles. It's a reminder that even in our darkest moments, there is always a path forward, a possibility of redemption. His life was filled with the kind of scars that often leave people broken, but Bobby was able to channel those scars into something greater. His music became his redemption, a way for him to make sense of a world that often seemed to betray him, and for those who listened to his work, it was a way to heal wounds that nothing else could touch. In the end, Bobby Womack's legacy is a testament to the power of music as a form of expression and therapy. His life was marked by contradictions: great success, but also great personal tragedy. Yet through it all, he found a way to continue sharing his story, offering comfort, solace, and healing to those who needed it most. His music and his story will forever remind us that even in our most difficult moments, there is always hope for redemption, and that music, in its purest form, has the ability to transform pain into something beautiful. His hits like "If You Think You're Lonely Now" and "Across 110th Street" were not just songs, they were windows into the soul of a man who knew pain intimately but also knew the power of expressing it through music. Bobby's story is also one of profound resilience. His legacy, now more complete, is not just about his achievements in music, but about the complexities of his life, the battles he fought, and the sacrifices he made. His journey through addiction, heartbreak, and family turmoil continued to shape his music, even as he battled the demons that seemed to follow him everywhere. Yet, through it all, Bobby's music never lost its power. His ability to pour his soul into every note, to use his struggles as fuel for his art, ensured that his legacy would be eternal. His songs, often laden with raw emotion and vulnerability, became anthems not just for the brokenhearted but for anyone who had ever faced adversity. As time went on, Bobby's career continued to evolve. He worked with some of the greatest names in the industry, including Aretha Franklin, Sly Stone, and George Benson. He became a sought-after songwriter and guitarist, and his influence on soul music remained undeniable. But the scars from his past never fully healed. Bobby Womack's personal struggles continued to haunt him, but it was through his music that he was able to find redemption. His voice, still as powerful and moving as ever, remained his ultimate form of expression. Bobby Womack's life and career are shaped by an enduring tension between his public persona as a soul music legend and the private battles he fought behind closed doors. A man whose voice could convey profound heartache, joy, and the full spectrum of human emotion, Womack's music became an embodiment of his own journey, a mixture of triumph, pain, and personal demons. His story is one of redemption, but it is also a story filled with deep scars that he wore on his sleeve, sometimes in public and at other times in ways that only those closest to him understood. From the very beginning, Bobby's life seemed destined to be filled with contradictions. Born into poverty in Cleveland, Ohio, Womack's rise to fame was an act of sheer will and undeniable talent. He was a gifted guitarist, singer, and songwriter, a natural at translating the turmoil of life into musical form, but as his fame grew, so did his personal struggles. His music was an outlet for his pain, yet it was clear that the joy of performing and the euphoria of success were often at odds with the darkness he carried within him. His voice, soulful and rich with raw emotion, reflected a man whose life was far from perfect, haunted by addictions, fraught relationships, and the weight of his past. Womack's rise to fame was meteoric, but his personal life was plagued with scandal and heartbreak. His controversial relationship with Sam Cooke's widow, Barbara Campbell, was just the beginning of his complicated love life. His public image as a charming and successful artist clashed with the turmoil in his personal relationships. Bobby's marriages, infidelities, and the struggles with his own family reflected a man in deep conflict, torn between his desires and the commitments he felt obligated to honor. In the midst of these struggles, Bobby's addiction to drugs and alcohol threatened to destroy everything he had worked for, pushing him to the brink of self-destruction. Yet, in the face of such overwhelming challenges, Bobby Womack found a way to continue creating music. Even when his personal life seemed to be spiraling out of control, his commitment to his craft never wavered. In fact, many of his most enduring songs were born from his deepest pains. His raw, unfiltered vulnerability was at the heart of his most powerful work, capturing the universal human experience of suffering and redemption.